All right, so as far as resources, we have this linked here for you guys with links, and I think that maybe this might be best with kind of clicking through the links because you would probably have to see it and click through to see what works for yourself. So I let the sisters talk about it. But as far as book wise, we use Spectrum books. So Spectrum, similar to how Eliana was sharing with Bridges. I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna give me one moment here. See, okay, let me go to screen and see if that helps. Um, Spectrum, just like Bridges, it pretty much will go from kindergarten all the way through. I think they go to 8th grade. It's really, really neat. They have testing books, history books, grammar books, reading books, everything. So I do use that as a physical book with my children. For science, we use Generation Genius. It's amazing. They love it. We've been using it. This is our first year using Generation Genius. I didn't think my kids was going to be doing science this early, but it just really worked out because it had a math component to it. And my nephew really needed the engaging math. He needed something that was like, I need to see a pizza chopped up in these amount of different ways. I need to see a sandwich. Like he needed that. And so in doing that with him, with the math, it just made sense for us to go ahead and do the science. So they do Generation Genius for science, which they love. So we'll have it with the off weeks where they have the lesson and then they actually have the experiment. Education.com is huge for us. Like you can literally, if you are starting as a new homeschool parent, and you do not know how to write a curriculum, you don't know what material that you want to use, literally you can type in a week or 8-week package for first grade, right? 3rd grade, 4th grade is just keep going, right? It literally gives you everything. It gives you the lesson plan. It gives you all of the materials. It gives you every single thing you need. Like you literally just print it out and do it, Now I've learned to use it for certain things like reinforcement, but it has so much on it. It has so much on it. Reading A through Z, we also use. With the Hafia, I started her with just doing direct lessons, and then I merged her into Reading A through Z because Reading A through Z really focused on teaching them how to dissect and making sure that they did reading comprehension. So my oldest girl, she already knew how to read, but we had her inside of the advanced reading section of that, which goes to like 8th grade. I put her in there because I wanted her to be able to dissect text. And so she started there. Ahafia started at the base. I went back with Ahafia because after starting her with Reading A through Z, I realized she could read, but she couldn't spell. And I'm like, why is it that the older one can spell? But when I'm saying to her, and I'm like, no, sound it out. The way that program did it for the initial base, like the advanced reading program of it was amazing. And if you just want them to read, it's amazing. But I realized with Ahafia, she could not sound out a word. She could not spell. And I'm saying, okay, so the word is, that didn't click. But then you could give her a book that was on a 5th grade level and she could read it to you. So I went back with her to actually teach her phonetics and to actually teach her how to break down and read words and code words, etc. And then the last one is Khan Academy. They use that for math a good deal of the time, as well as Khan Academy Kids. So that's something that I know my husband used. There was something that I heard with Khan Academy with English language arts that was garbage. So I would not necessarily I would not use it for that if you're not monitoring it. But it is a really good program and it's free. You don't pay for Khan Academy. You can take all of those lessons up to 12th grade. Actually, you can go to college. They give college courses on there, college classes on there, and it's all free. So you can get all of that there for free. I just wanted to show you guys what I did different with my youngest girl because of what I experienced with the Hafia. So again, that program was really good for reading as far as advanced comprehension, right? When it came down to my younger girl, I did this with her, and this is IMSE. I got trained for it as a teacher. And when I kind of saw how it worked, this program is for those that struggle with if you have a kid that's dyslexic. But if you can get a dyslexic child to get it, that means that if the child is not dyslexic, it's even, it surely works. And I've used it with all sorts of children. I've used it with English language learners. It works amazing. It's really, really good. It really hones in on, so I would sit down and I would go with my daughter, and then I go through what we call a 3-part drill. This is the sand. She gets every texture of it to connect sound and letter and sound. It really, really works. And she picked up reading really quickly. Also, just with, when I say to her, spell this word, she'll pound, she'll do all of these things to actually get it out versus what I was going through with the Hafia. So this is one of the things where I'll sit her down and I'll go across, and then it's like dig, especially when it comes to them blending it together. right? That's always the issue when they're first starting out, where they'll start to separate. And then if they do, of course, this is just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. The words, you're teaching them blends, you're teaching them sounds, you're teaching them all of the different rules, but it takes it bit by bit. And they will go ahead and go across and just continue sounding out all of the words. My daughter loves this. She'll go all the way through each day, just going through a different, this right here, as you see, will just keep going and going and going. It's focusing on what we have already covered. And so the program is amazing. Anyone that's interested in it that has an early learner and you would like a copy of this, or you would like to do this, just message me on the side. But that's what I use now for the base with my youngest girl, just because I realized I had to be more intentional, like I was with the first one, with her learning those sorts of phonetic rules. Because reading is great. You want them to be able to sound out words. You want them to be able to know how to do those different things, So that's where we went with that. We also have IXL. IXL is really amazing. It's another program that'll take you from K through 12, really great push through. So I say all that to say is that there's tons. I was one of the ones that got really crazy with it and did a whole lot. I don't recommend that as a first-time homeschooling parent, because you're going to end up, if it will become overwhelming, you're not going to use all of that. This is a combination of what I've been using over the years, but you're not going to use it all. So you don't have to, you don't need to have as much. You can see what works within that category and then just add on to it from there. All right, so I'm going to stop there. I'll let this jump in.
Yeah, as far as the resources that we use Milestone Books. Again, that's the one where the first person I've ever met to homeschool, before I even got married, I remember she had blessed me with a few of the English books, the English teacher manual. I think it was for 2nd and 3rd grade for Milestone Books. And that was how I even learned about it. And what Milestone Books is that, I can kind of like share screen real quick if it's okay. But this is the curriculum right here. This is the website, so it's Rod and Staff. So one thing I have to say about Rod and Staff is that I love them for math. They're very traditional. That was the reason that I hopped on it and stuck with it, because my thing was I didn't want to do Common Core. I wanted my boys to learn mental math, things that I felt like they don't teach as much today, because Common Core was such a big thing in Illinois and I think everywhere. But I love that it's traditional math. And then the English is my favorite subject. So for me, it was like, wow, like learning how to diagram sentences so that you understand the different parts that each word plays in the sentence. And so as you can see, like this is the price for it. I didn't think you get the complete set. And the beautiful thing with these teacher manuals is you could use them for years. So like this is for my boys, the 5th grade teacher manual. You can see like I've had this for so long, but the one thing I love about it is I'm just like you, Eliana, like math is not my strong suit. So the thing with the teacher manuals is that it goes through in such detail where you're teaching to where it's like, I'm like, wow, I feel like I'm learning all over again. And like, I'm remembering things. So like, it explains it in a teacher, like it also has like different drills and everything where it explains it in such a way where it even tells you like what things to do on the chalkboard. Again, it's a very old curriculum. It was copywritten in the 1992, I think it was. But again, if you love like that traditional way of learning, this is this is for you. So again, like this is 5th grade math, the English, again with diagramming. I do this with my boys so that just learning how to like, again, break apart sentences. This is the 2nd grade math. So my babies, I have them, my 6 and 7-year-old there. And again, with the beauty with homeschool, my 6-year-old, he was a very early learner. And so because of that, I kept him on pace with his older brother. I mean, with my 4th born. So they're both doing 2nd grade work. And so with this, it's like, again, they do speed drills so that they're so again, like things to kind of, so that, because it's all about, the important thing is, it's like trying to remember, like 8 + 2 is 10 instead of like using your fingers. So I really encourage that with my boys, and fractions. And so, yeah, so for me, milestone books, hand down, that's my favorite. The only drawback is, and we do a lot of supplementation with social studies and history, because milestone books, they are written by Amish, the Mennonites. So it's different. When I say different, meaning like where there was like a section on Africa for the younger ones, and it of course painted the child in Africa as being, you know, very poor, whereas when they highlighted the girl from Europe, you know, she was more in a richer family, and like, so you kind of see that, and it's like, okay, you know, so do a lot of supplementation with that. Science, I love it, very detailed with the science, and again, because it's a Christian-based homeschool, which I love about it, is that it incorporates like the father in it. Of course, there's some things that of course not true, like when it comes to like the food, you know, my boys know to not, like if they read bacon, turkey bacon, you know, or if it's ham, like as far as identifying food, you know, they know like, yeah, no, that's not food. So that's the beauty with it. So aside from that, like again, eating the meat, spitting out the bones, that for me, hands down my favorite, very traditional, very detailed. Like this is the 6th grade science, the 8th grade science, and here they're learning a lot of chemistry, biochemistry, different organisms, sounds. Like it's just very, even has a picture up here of like all the constellations, which I think is nice because it helps. Like I know that, you know, Abraham, you know, he observed the stars as how the father made them and recognized, okay, them and their season. So, you know, so I love it, and all gives glory to the Father. Another resource we use, I especially use with my younger ones when they're little, was Starfall. Starfall only costs like, I think it's like $39 for the whole year. And it has like so many different things. It's online. And so like you click on it and it'll be like, hey, astronaut, like, so it breaks down the phonetics. It even has math in there. So that was another one. Another thing that I use with my older ones, we actually just started using it this year with my older two. And the reason we started it, my husband, because when I was doing my clinicals, it was kind of hard, like having to do work on like treatment plans. So what I did was, my husband, he had found Acellus, and Acellus is an online homeschool program that he put my older ones in. And it's still homeschool, like there's no teacher. It's like pretty much self-paced for them. Like they're very, because they're 14, 13, going on 15 and 14, close to the end of this year in a few months. But it really, the beautiful thing with it is has so many different subjects. It costs $25 a month. There's 2 types. There's the power homeschool, where it's like, okay, you're the teacher, and it teaches, it's like online. So you have a teacher that's kind of like, it's videos, where they're breaking like different, like explaining like different algebraic equations, for example, log distribution, and like breaking that down. And so they like answer questions, they do tests, they do quizzes. And again, it's very independent paced for the boys. So we use that, we do the power homeschool, because the other one is $50 a month. But the only reason we don't do that, because that's like, I mean, the nice thing with Arizona, they have a very, it reminds me of Illinois, like very open for homeschool. So you don't have to, yeah. Oh, yours is more. Wow, no, unless, are you doing power homeschool? So do you have Acellus Academy and power homeschool? Power homeschool uses Acellus Academy curriculum, but it's 25. So that's probably why you're paying more, because you're probably in the Acellus Academy part. But yeah, and I wanted to show y'all real quick, if it's okay, I want to share screen one last time to kind of show y'all with Acellus what this looks like. So the beautiful thing is here you have students, and then the nice thing is here you have, oh, don't know what just happened, sorry. Can y'all see the screen for Acellus? I'm sorry. Okay, but you have the syllabus. So this is for my son Ezra, SCORE. These are the lessons that he's in now. So he is in agriculture. I'm getting on him to bring his GPA up. for these classes, but medical terminology, they have those classes, they have coding classes, computer science, they have AP classes. And then when they're done, you could actually hit print certificate and use these for, you know, like if for father willing, if you want them to go to college, can use this. It is required that you have to take a social development class, but I can testify that they don't push anything in there. You know what I mean? Like they don't teach, like it's more so like, oh, if you're sad, like know to speak to somebody. My boys just know, like, let it play and just kind of like, you know, work your way through it. But so they don't teach, they don't push certain agendas, which is a beautiful thing. But yeah, and then here's a live monitor. Of course, my boys are not present in class, but they're off. But you can see a live monitor to see what your child is doing at that moment. So you can see, oh, they're not in their class, they are doing their assignment, they're probably searching online, doing something else. So you can actually see them and what they're doing live, and you could actually click into it to see like what question they're on. You can even open up to see like what they're looking at. So it's a beautiful thing. Like for me, it helped me out tremendously because again, y'all know I got 5 boys and I didn't want to do this. My husband did this. It's his fault. But he put them in this because again, I was doing all book traditional work. But it has worked out to be such a blessing because again, my older 2 are very independent and it helped me out a lot, especially during my last year in school. And then I can't remember what else I had listed, but that's really it. And then the YMCA library has amazing resources. So the library out here, Maricopa County, they have free resources. So they have like Rocket Learning languages, where they have a library of different languages for free, just for having a library card for free. So they have a whole lengthy curriculum of that, of different languages, where they have you even like speaking into the mic to make sure you're pronouncing it correctly, spelling it, everything, flashcards. Gale Learning courses has a lot of different courses. Again, this is through my library, which I have been incredibly useful for me. They have college classes in there, certificate courses that are actually certified, like certified for real, for free. So I use the library. And then of course the YMCA and park districts, our park district, we use that again for our PE. Our boys are in martial arts through the park district. So instead of us paying like twice as much, you know, we only pay, you know, for their Taekwondo class, $30 a month. So actually $30 a month. So per child. So use the park districts again. So those are all the resources that I use that have been incredibly helpful for me. And then also like homeschooling books are really good. Like this is a good book, Homeschooling Year by Year. And then also games. I have a Spanish bingo that I do with my boys, just to help with their learning with like basically sight words and learning which language, like identifying like the words in Spanish. And so, yeah, sorry it took so long.
No, it's understandable. It's so much material that we cover, right? We try to condense it in. That's a workshop on its own, like just curriculum workshop, because it's so much that you accumulate over the time, like seriously. So no, absolutely, sis, it's understandable. Get Eliana, it's on you. I'm sorry, me push you.
Yeah,
You want me to
I'm
push
gonna share.
Okay, let me see. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing.
So I've enjoyed this so far because I'm learning new things too about
Yes.
different resources. So I always think it's cool anytime I have the opportunity to hear from other homeschool parents about what they're using. Um, so I'm gonna share my screen. Hey buddy, he's so cute. Let's see. Okay. So yeah, this was like originally how I was trying to collect different things we were using our first year. Obviously I've added to this, but I thought it was just a good guideline. So I wanted to bring up the fact that when I transitioned my children, like I said, I guess, I kind of misspoke because when Ovadia said, yeah, my little one is already homeschooling, like that's so true, right? And so I was home with them until like for the first 5 years. And then, like I said, then they went to school. And then 2020, they were 9 and 10 is when I took them back out, right? So, but I want to say that in that transition, if any of you are, your children are in school and you're thinking about transitioning, um, that first maybe maybe more than that, 3, 4 months, we literally only did the Bible and math. That was it. What I had realized was that unfortunately, at the time I was a full-time speech pathologist. I realized that I knew more about my clients or my students, however you want to describe them, than I really did about my own children's way of learning. And it was a sobering experience because I thought I really did know my kids, but the reality is that they were spending more time at a school than they were at home. And so there were different ways that they had changed from obviously, from when they were 5 and 6, and in their learning. And it was like I said, it's a sobering experience for me to realize that, and just their ability to attend um, wasn't where I thought it should be, or I know it should have been. Um, and so yeah, so just prayer and like I said, us reading our Bible because Bible is history, Bible is reading, reading comprehension. If you can read, the King James Version, you are reading above level than most Americans. So this is one of the reasons why my kids are such strong readers, to be honest. But I also want to say, don't be afraid if you're doing that transition to pause and go back. I had to go back a year in math with one, and we took that 4 months. And, internally, I'm freaking out like they're going to be behind. But then when I tested them at the end of that year, they were already ahead. And as I've shared, overall, the youngest is 3 years ahead, the oldest is 4 years ahead. That varies per subject, but overall, that's what they're testing. So don't be afraid to do that. And really setting the tone for what the Most High wants you to do with your children, and really taking that time to do that. So yeah, so these are some of our Bible resources that we use. Like I said, the KJV was our main source. Also, Bible Pathway is it's a I guess it's an online resource, but they actually have visuals. Maybe I should pull up one. Hold on one second. Let me put one so that you can see because I think it's better. Uh, to show it. So, yeah, so they have these different activity books. This was also something that we definitely utilized a ton more when they were younger, but we still have a like some of the older ones that we use. But it has so many different types, and it breaks down for different activities. And as you can see, at least on the cover pages, because the rest of it is black and white, but the characters are actually the right color. So, and this is not uh, a Israelite source or anything. So it's very interesting when you look at the creators, but they obviously know the truth in that aspect. Um, so yeah, so they have a lot of cool resources through these books with there's one specifically for the Torah. And so anyway, I kind of created a Bible study schedule, which I believe is in my resources to share, of how we kind of have gone through the Bible and studied the Bible um, with the boys. And so my youngest, like at their coming of age, that was last year for my oldest, rather, I'm sorry, he was able to give, his first lesson, and he did that independently, and the youngest is doing that as well. So, um, a lot of times I know we focus on a lot of the more worldly topics, but Bible education is super, super important in our house. And like I said, for the other subjects, they're far ahead. So, as the scriptures say, focus on the kingdom first and everything else shall be added unto you. So that's that. Bible Pathway Adventures, from Babylon to Timbuktu. That was definitely a book that we read through our first year. It's way further ahead than they even could comprehend at that age, but I also want to encourage you, like, don't be afraid to shy away from that, and you can read through different books with your students and break it down for their reading level. So for math, we are CTC math family. And like I said, this program, even though I'm sending them to the Y this year, it was just going to be once a week for math and science. Actually, this program is what got my kids to be advanced. So particularly my youngest, who was a year behind in math, is now a year ahead, grade level wise, for the actual curriculum in math. And Caleb is 2 years ahead, specifically for math. So this is that program. And yeah, it's about $148 for 18 months, but that is for a whole family. So I only have two boys, but if you have four or five, it doesn't matter. It gives you access to all grade levels, from K to high school. So that's also really great if you were in a situation like I was, where you had to go behind for one kid and another kid is going, faster, whatever. Um, so yeah, so that is that. And then these are just some other books that we have used over the years, like mathematical reasoning. That's more like word problems, that kind of thing. And then Good and Beautiful. Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to click there, but um, Good and Beautiful actually has some free resources for various subjects, but math being one of them. So I believe they're K through 6. They have most of their free resources available for that. And then also like hands-on things like the wrap-up fractions. You can look at that website to see what those are, but it's just more like, a hands-on thing that they can do for their fractions, Moby Max, different games that we utilize for math. But yeah, those we try to bring in as well. Science. So these are just like, once again, things that we've utilized over the years, but Apologia is a Christian science curriculum. We utilize like that for like two different subjects. We have for like a earth science and for physiology. But I'm sorry, not earth science, zoology, as it says, and physiology. Um, but I really started leaning more towards using Easy Peasy, which I utilize Easy Peasy for their science, social studies, um, and then like extras. I was trying to remember like the extracurricular things. But Apologia is good if you are into it, but it has a lot of reading. And so I felt like it was a little too cumbersome. Like we were spending so much time. Now that first year, when, like I said, we really pulled back and we were basically doing Bible and math, and then I started pulling in the science, it was fine. But as they were able to add on more courses and that kind of thing, I felt like it was too much reading. But I think it might be better for like older students. But as far as like the content, I felt that it was really good. And they have really cool projects and different things like that that you can do. Um, but like I said, right now we use Easy Peasy Science, which for the most part, it's only been a few things I've had to correct as far as from our belief standpoint. Easy Peasy is a Christian-based online homeschool program, but it is also free. And let me show you here. So like you can set it up where they can log in themselves. So I'll just pick one. I haven't done it for their next year, so this is all from last year. But for example, like these were the courses that we used Easy Peasy for. So the history, biology, Spanish, and then art. But like I said, that those extracurricular like art, it rotates between computer, art, PE, and I feel like there's one more that I'm forgetting. But yeah, so they can log in under their own name and it shows where they are and that kind of thing. And I was really like, we've always kind of done like geography and things like that through them. This year was the first year we did like actual history through them. I usually kind of just do my own thing. And I was actually uh, pleasantly surprised that they were really on point with a lot of stuff. Obviously, there was still, certain things we had to add in about our history as a people, but I mean, they really did not sugarcoat a lot of things, but did it in a way that was child friendly, and I was really impressed by it. So, yep. So we utilize Easy Peasy a lot. Sorry, and so and then like reading comprehension. So I utilize readworks.org, which is a website where they can read different paragraphs and then they have questions to answer, that kind of thing, and you can grade it. News ELA, these are all free. News ELA is also more of a current events. I used to use News ELA more than now because it's like they're pulling in like these agendas. I'll be honest with that. So you really have to filter that because it's like, think about it like New York Times for kids. So it's really like what's going on right now. So I don't use that as much anymore, but definitely, read works for reading comprehension for sure. And then, like I said, easy peasy for the social studies. Um, this was, or yeah, because I'm not using it currently, but this was a website that we were using for spelling. It kind of has different games that the kids can play for it. It's also a free website. Um, what I found was the way I, so kind of going back to what Vaya was saying, I love those resources you all were sharing about for younger children with reading. That's kind of my specialty, but it's sometimes it's harder to translate that to others for like a resource that they could just use as opposed to utilizing everything that I learned in school, right? But we did the Montessori method for when they were younger. And so with Montessori, you only teach the letter sounds, not the letter names. So I never taught my kids like the ABC song or that A was A. They learned that from, that we used to let them watch Sesame Street. That's how they learned that, right? But they learned the letter sounds from the Montessori method. And so they have similar to kind of that program that Ovaya was saying, which I thought that was pretty cool, Ovaya, because it seems like it's something that maybe a parent who's not trained in it can maybe just utilize it better. But there's a lot of manipulatives with Montessori. So there's sandpaper letters that they actually would trace. There's physical letters once they get older that they can use to spell, that kind of thing, to put things together. So with that and just our language curriculum and that kind of thing, they are better spellers than I am. So, that's the thing. And the reality is like I wasn't trying to build like spelling bee children, but the fact that they're definitely better spellers. The oldest was reading at 18 months and the youngest was reading at like 25, 26 months. So they caught on to reading and are able to sound things out because they only knew the sounds. They only knew A was A, but B was B. We actually had a song for the letter sounds. The A says ah 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 ah. That's how we did that kind of thing. All right, so now with language arts, that kind of thing, definitely I've utilized Easy Peasy. Also, like I said, since I'm an SLP, I really focus on teaching them essay writing and that kind of thing independently. But also Good and Beautiful has free resources for language arts. I've also used so first language lessons. This is like this is the initial, I guess you would say, like elementary. There's another step to this when they get in middle school. Now these are actual books that you order. Um, and this is just an example of one of the books here. I love these books. I love them. I mean, and this is coming from a SOP, but it's amazing. They even like go into talk about like they utilize real information to teach grammar, so it's not so boring. And they even like talk about why, for example, our days of the week um capitalized, but not the seasons, because the days of the week are named after gods, and they talk about that with the months and everything else. Like, so it's just really cool. So once they finish that level, then they also have this writing with skill. Um, this is by the same, maker, which is the well-trained mind. So they have lots of different subjects, but I particularly like their language arts, writing, grammar, things that they have. So we've had like their little logic books are kind of like brain breaks for them, really, but they're fun ways to get their brains to think in a different way. Cursive, when we are still doing cursive. When I first taught cursive to them, we utilized this book, Cursive Logic, which is just a different way of teaching cursive. It worked for them. Now they basically, their books are copying Bible scriptures in cursive. So it, has a dual purpose of them, memorizing the scriptures. But it's I just got that from off of Amazon. There's several books, whatever version you prefer. Like I just Googled KJV cursive books, and yeah, and that's what the boys do, just to keep that up so they can continue to remember how to write in this digital world. For typing, we still do this. Typingclub.com is free. And it's the kind of, they get stars and that kind of thing. You might have saw in the intro, my little one was, smiling next to all those stars. That was his typingclub.com. Um, the computer education, like I said, they do have a class through Easy Peasy, but we also do utilize code.org, which is a free online resource for coding, and Scratch. So yeah, they have taught, really my eldest has taught himself how to code through that a lot. The youngest does do some of it, but this is kind of like my eldest thing. So yeah. And then for language, the boys, so as you might have heard, language is a big thing in our household, but unfortunately, I speak English and a little Spanish, not as much as I should. Ovaya is gonna get me, I'm sure. I'm sure. I understand more than I can speak, but my sister speaks, 5 languages, and so she really encouraged me. Like, if you start them off young, they'll be able to get these different languages. So we really focus on Mandarin, Spanish, um, and Hebrew. Those are the languages that I asked them to learn on their own. Our youngest has decided to start Latin, and the eldest has started Japanese. So if they want to learn something else, I don't stop them. Obviously, just as long as they keep up their other stuff and they really like language. So we utilize Rosetta Stone because I just paid for a lifetime membership, and you can have up, I forgot how many users, maybe it's 5 or something for it, and they can just go for it, like whatever languages they want to do. And then for Mandarin, since that's something that, we really focused on when they were young, the reason for that, my sister, who knows all these languages, said that was like, she can't really crack it. Like, she knows a few Mandarin words, but she can't really crack the language because it's so tonal. So she suggested that we start with Mandarin. And so because of that, that's kind of why we started with that. But they do have a Mandarin tutor. Um, if anyone is interested in that, you can ask in the comments and I'll share. But basically, I only pay $6 a class for their Mandarin teacher, and she's in China, so it's a really cheap source if you're interested in teaching your kids Mandarin. And yeah, and Bible Pathways has resources for Hebrew as well. So music, the eldest plays piano, and the youngest guitar. The eldest taught himself how to play piano. We've had teachers, but he's just kind of gone on that on his own. The youngest does take classes for guitar on outschool.com that we pay for. I had looked into Prodigy, but we never actually did that one. But I just decided to keep it there just in case anybody else thought that would fit their student. Emotional intelligence is something that we worked on heavily the first year or two when they were in school. And like I said, especially just coming from that school environment. And this is a free resource that you can use. It's called Emotional ABCs, and it's really good for the younger ones for sure. Um, Leadership development, we've done several things throughout the years, but a good place to start is 7 Habits of Happy Kids. They have books and workbooks. Um, you know, once they turn 12, we're having them do 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens, being at the age of understanding for us. We actually start them at 12. So Caleb finished that last year, and it is phenomenal. It goes through like goal setting and that kind of thing for them. Um, Yeah. Junior achievement is also like if you want to teach your children business and that kind of thing, they have free resources, free curriculum online for that. Art, we utilize YouTube Kids, art videos, easy peasy. They have an art class, but these are some other resources, but those are the ones we use most. I already talked about PE, home ec. So we try to do some homestead cooking, meaning like, okay, let's make butter as opposed to just I don't know, buying butter. So let's learn how to make butter. But we also do like regular stuff, like now they can make breakfast and lunch, that kind of stuff. And gardening. And then my husband works with them more on like carpentry and engineering. And those are some free resources for that. And then extracurricular, we kind of talked about that before. And then like the field trips, like I said, we do these field trips once a month with our homeschool group through our congregation. And that's just a list of different places you can go to in North Carolina for homeschool. So that was a mouthful, but I will stop there. And just also to say that, like I said, it's we pull from those things. And like right this week, I'm going to be planning for next year. And I will pull from different resources to make that schedule, which is what you saw for what it looks like in real life. It's not like these kids do all of that every day.
No, you're absolutely right, sis. It was the same. I was like, okay, it's time to start going back into planning this week for the upcoming year. So yeah, it's not, they don't do it all in one time, but just so you guys see, this is how you see why those stats are saying that these kids are above average on these tests and why they are, why they're being recruited. That just gives you a snippet of the fact that I don't know about you too, but I think sometimes because we are doing the homeschooling, we feel like we want to make sure we're giving them everything. We want to make sure that they have access to everything. And so they're being introduced to so much and having so much at their access. Again, they're not doing it all in one shot, but they have so much, so it's like you understand and you see why. And sis, I saw your message. Yep, you are absolutely good. I'm gonna mute for a second. Okay.
No, I just wanted to add one more thing because my boys love to read, and just finding like reading material for me like outside of what we read was important. And so I just wanted to add that these I Survive books, I know they look very well read, but these are really good books. My boys love them. It's
Can you
like
repeat the title again, sis?
yeah, I Survived. Yes. And so like they have like, so basically what it is teaching you history, like major historic events, like in the world, basically, but from the eyes of a fictional character. So even though the character is fictional, it's like still based off something that happened. So like this is I Survived the Japanese tsunami. I survived Hurricane Katrina. I survived the Battle of Gettysburg. I survived the shark attacks of 1916. Just some examples about them the whole set, and they love them. So like even my youngest, I mean, like hearing them like, oh, I read this, or I finished this one, or I'm on chapter 3, and they love it. So yeah.
No, you're right, sis. Those are pretty cool. And I was going to say that as well. And again, I think we could probably have a workshop itself just on curriculum because it's so much with it. I mean, but that independent reading is definitely important. I think I love a good book. The kids do too. That's a mandatory part of curriculum. They have to read. So they get a solid 45 minutes of reading in a day. They can, either that we're doing it first thing in the morning or they're doing it towards, at night before they go to bed, but they have to read for 45 minutes. And I let them choose whatever they want. Of course, as material that I've searched through, they'll gather it. But then also, I think it's part of training them that they know how to recognize garbage, as we term it in my home. So we train them with that too, that they are stewards in that as well, because we reviewed what it is that they've covered. So they go, oh, they mentioned something that's like, or whatever else. But it's neat because we get an array of different books that they can grab and read and just really spark that interest with reading. So no, yeah, definitely. It's amazing. Teachers pay teachers, another great site, definitely, again, so there's tons of resources that's there, that you all would be able to find helpful here. We pray that you guys are still with us because we know this is still going strong.